Hello and welcome to another episode of Bloodhouse, the show where we talk about art house horror. I'm your host, Joshua Conkle.
And I'm your co-host, Drusilla Adeline. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, how are you today, Drew?
I'm doing fairly well. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm good. I had my boyfriend in town this weekend. I'm in a long-distance relationship.
So sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. He's moving here, and so he was here looking for jobs, which is good.
Oh,
So
awesome. That's
it was really
amazing. You had a
lovely.
great week
Yeah,
then.
I
Had
did,
you watched
yeah.
anything spectacular while he was in town?
I did. So I watched, after he left, he didn't get to see it. I watched Werewolves Within, which I'd been wanting to see. And it's really fun. It reminded me a lot of like the kind of movie you would watch at a slumber party as a kid in the 90s, you know, like Tremors or Arachnophobia or like that kind of old school horror comedy. Just like really warm, feel good horror, if that makes sense.
I loved it. As soon as it was announced, as soon as trailers dropped, I was like right on the bandwagon. As soon as it came out on VOD, I was renting it and watching it, and I had a blast of a time. The cast is like ungodly stacked.
I have a big crush on Sam Richardson at this point. I mean, all the way
Yeah.
back to Veep, which is one of my favorite shows because I love a mean comedy where people talk fast. He's so charming. Like,
You
what
need
a
to see him in
charming actor.
Detroiters. He's so sweet in Detroiters.
I've heard that's really good.
It's very
Yeah.
good. I adore him. He's so great as the lead in that. And then it's the like female lead is the girl from the like AT&T commercials
I wondered who she was. She was very good.
or Verizon commercials. I think it's Verizon. She's amazing. She's a delight. Yeah, and then we get the gay couple who are
Yeah,
amazing.
Shia Jackson and what's his name who plays Guillermo on What We Do in the Shadows. I don't think I've ever known his real name, but he's really wonderful.
Yeah, they're so sweet and so great. And the entire kind of like closed off Agatha Christie and then they were a nun vibe crossed with maybe it's werewolves comedy is so good.
I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with it. Okay, so you know how people talk about how they don't like when dogs die in movies and how they're like, oh, that turns me off immediately. And there's even a website called doesthedogdie.com where you can check to see if the dog is going to die. That always felt to me a little bit like trying to have a personality too much. You know, it sort of has the vibe of like, you know, when people are like, I hate the word moist and I can't hear it. It's like, do you really? I mean, we're talking about horror movies here. So it always struck me as a little bit disingenuous. And then last night in Werewolves Within, there's a little like adorable papillon that gets eaten at some point off screen. And I got really triggered by it. And I was a little angry because I felt like, well, people only are mad when a dog dies if it's like a collie or something. But if it's a little dog, it's treated as a joke. And like I started going down this whole mental rabbit hole about how unfair people are to little dogs and how if you have a little dog, you're treated as like silly and how the movie treats this woman's grief over the death of her little dog as silly. And at a certain point, I was like, Josh, this is your stuff. This is not the movie. And while I do think it's true that there is like some people are prejudiced against little dogs, and I will tell you that having a little prissy dog and walking it around is like a real magnet for other people's homophobia and toxic masculinity. I had to admit at a certain point, like, this is not the movie, this is your stuff. Like,
I mean, probably. Yeah. I also don't like seeing any kind of dog violence in movies because it feels such like a low blow. But also, I grew up in Indiana with like big dogs my whole life. So like, how dare you? How dare you? They're so sweet and they don't understand. So one of the movies that I watched this week, this is such a great transition because it goes from killing dogs to vilifying dogs.
Oh, great.
So I watched an early 90s classic that I'm sure you've seen that I had never watched before because it had always been presented to me as that movie's terrible. It sucks. Don't watch it. I was very pleasantly surprised that I was incorrect. It is the John Ritter classic, Stay Tuned.
Oh, do you know what? I belong to a movie club, and we just watched this like last year, and
Mm-hmm.
most people had never seen it. I saw it, I think, once when it came out as a kid. What did you think?
I thought it was a delight. A friend of
Agree. I
mine
really like it.
has been binging Three's Company, and has been wanting to watch some John Ritter fare, and texted me to say, "Do you want to come over and watch Stay Tuned?" And I was like, "Why not? I've never seen it. It sounds like a lot of fun." Really quickly, for people who don't know, the plot of Stay Tuned is that Jeffrey Jones plays an evil person outside of real life, who goes door to door, offering free cable packages that then suck people into a hell dimension of TV. And it's like a kind of like game for demons in hell to subject people to these weird TV dimensions. And it's very goofy and very funny. And it's got flashes of, UHF as much as it does Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like 80s, 90s kitsch, family suburbia mixed with like practical effects and like making jokes at TV's expense. But through all of this, there is a neighbor dog that they always have to close the fence because the neighbor's dog is so vicious and so mean that it's going to get in there and going to attack the family or something.
Right.
And there's a standoff near the end of the movie when the genius kid, which it's an 80s, 90s comedy, there has to be like a genius kid who has like a Rube Goldberg machine to make breakfast.
Yeah.
Has like, he's in the middle of like saving his parents from the TV thing when all of a sudden the dog comes up, and it is so obvious that they could not get this poor dog to seem even remotely scary on the day. His like eyes are giving you puppy dog eyes, and he's just looking so sweet at this little boy as the 80-yard off-screen growling is happening. And I'm like, no. You cannot convince me that this dog is nothing but a good little boy. It's, and the dog eventually, he doesn't die. Mm-hmm. So it's safe to watch. But he does get sent to the hell dimension to endlessly torture Jeffrey Jones. So you know what? He had a good job. He's doing
a service at the end of the day.
He's doing the world a service.
For anyone who doesn't know, Jeffrey Jones is most famous as, I think, for playing the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he went to prison for having child pornography. Just to lighten the mood a little bit and let everyone know who Jeffrey Jones is.
Which apparently most people don't know that. That was something that my friends that I watched Stay Tuned with didn't know about.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to inform them during the film, which just made the film work better, I think.
I grew up watching Ferris Bueller a lot, of course, because of my age and generation. But
as did I
watched Deadwood for the first time in the pandemic in 2020, and he's on Deadwood, and anytime he was on screen, all I could think was pedophile. Like it just really mars a person's everything, as well it should probably.
He's also the like dad in Beetlejuice, which is like Catherine O'Hara is supposed to be the like insane pop art nonsense, and he's supposed to be the grounded dad. Meanwhile, the world loves Catherine O'Hara. She's a national treasure.
She's amazing. Do you know what? I'm glad that you mentioned Beetlejuice and Catherine O'Hara, because it just made me flash on being obsessed with that movie as a kid. And I think I knew that the movie was making fun of Catherine O'Hara and her friend, but that is who I wanted to be when I grew up.
You wanted to be Otho?
I wanted to be Catherine O'Hara, and probably more so Otho, yes. And now I am, and it's great.
They're great, though. I mean, it's the constant clash between, do you want to be an art pop insanity, or do you want to be cottagecore? Or do you want to be the goth daughter? And there is somehow you can do all three.
I feel like I'm kind of all three, because I'm in a big cottagecore phase right now.
I believe this.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not here to talk about cottagecore. We have a movie today that is delightful and weird, but a little bit tricky to talk about. We picked this movie a while back, and as it got closer, we had a discussion about whether or not we wanted to still do it, because the movie is Ukrainian, And when we picked it, things were very tense, but in the past couple of days, things have ramped up pretty significantly. Putin's forces are invading Ukraine. Ukrainians are taking up arms. The United States and the EU have imposed sanctions on Russia, and it's very dire and violent over there. And so we were in a little bit of a tricky position because we still wanted to talk about this movie, but we felt like we couldn't talk about it without in some way acknowledging what was going on in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like right now is a really good time to be celebrating Ukrainian folklore, Ukrainian history, and Ukrainian art as a topic, because this is a film that is deeply, deeply rooted in Ukrainian history, culture, and folklore, which is incredibly important, first of all. Yeah. But additionally, because this film was made in the 1960s, it was made in a time in which Ukraine was a member of the USSR.
Right.
And so it is very incorrectly labeled as being a Russian film, right. Which is a big problem.
So let's talk about the movie from 1967. It is the Soviet film directed by Konstantin Yershov and Georgy Korchpachev, adapted from the Nikolai Gogol novel of the same name. It's V.
V!
Фильме «Ви» Наталья Варлей и Леонид Куравлев. Ведьма! Ей-богу, ведьма!
So, yes, this movie is from 1967. It was the first Soviet horror film ever produced, and I think perhaps the only Soviet horror film I saw from some websites, but I'm not sure about that.
Depends on how you want to label come and see.
Yeah, that's true. and what horror is, that's another topic, I guess, that we'll get to. But that's quite something, because for anyone who doesn't know, the USSR lasted from 1922 to 1991. So they get their first horror movie in 1967. I grew up in the tail end of the Cold War. I heard a lot of horror stories about communism and how you'd have to wait in line for hours for like one potato. This was the first time that I was ever shaken by a story about communism. They got one horror movie in a century. Not a great track record for me. What's your history with this movie? Where are you with this movie, Drew?
So V is a movie that I wish had entered my life sooner, but I'm glad for every day that it has been in my life. I didn't even hear about it until probably 2016, 2017, in which the Cine Family Theater here in Los Angeles did a programming called All of Them Witches, celebrating a series of witch movies. Everything from kiddie matinees like Bell Book and Candle to midnight weirdo extravaganzas of hard-to-find films like V. And they showed snippets of the gorgeous blue and teal tinged monster infestation of the ending of this movie and the trailer for that programming. And I was always like, what in the hell is that thing? I want to see that. I need to see that. And for years, it was really, really, really difficult to find. In 2019, Severin Films restored the film, put it out on Blu-ray, and made it widely available in the US, and it's been streaming on Shudder ever since. And then now it is also available in the All the Haunts Be Ours box set from Severin, in conjunction with the Woodlands Darkened Days Bewitched folk horror documentary, which is like such an ideal pairing. And I could not be more thrilled with that. And I've seen the film many, many times. My ex is a witch of Ukrainian descent, so we watched it together many times.
Wow.
I think it's a delight. It's both a witch film, a vampire film, a demon film, a film about possession, a religious horror film, a folk horror film, a monster film. There's a lot going on. What was your connection to this discussion, Josh?
None whatsoever. I mean, I heard of it when it came onto Shudder a couple of years ago. I sort of watched it, half watched it once or twice, kind of had it in the background while I did other things or turned it off, 20 minutes into it. Not because I didn't like it, just because, I don't know. This movie to me felt like, I went to art school, and so you would go to these parties at art school where there'd often be a movie like this playing silently while like an Outcast CD played over it. You know what I mean? So it'd be like other movies like this are like sort of like Fantastic Planet or like weird, very visual movies like that. So it kind of gave me that. You're just listing off
some of my favorite movies.
I love Fantastic Planet, but it has that sort of vibe to it. So I didn't really have a history. I did a lot of research in preparation for this. So yeah, to your point about folklore, this is adapted from a Nikolai Gogol novella of the same name. And he's a really interesting figure because he is sort of both Ukrainian and Russian. So he was born in Ukraine in the 1800s and moved to Russia and became famous in Russia as well. And if you don't know, he's sort of like that part of the world's, I don't know, Edgar Allan Poe or somebody of that styling. So, and he was famous for different things in both places. So in his native Ukraine, he was famous for writing sort of folkloric adaptations like V. And then in Russia, he became famous for writing sort of like comedies of manners and stuff like that. So very different stylings in both places, but he is somebody who kind of embodies this tension between Ukraine and Russia. And he died before the Soviet Union came into being, so he didn't see any of that. But I don't know, it's just an interesting portrait of somebody who straddles both places a little bit.
Very much so. And what he did with V from a literary standpoint is kind of what the Brothers Grimm were doing a little bit more for the Western world, of taking these kind of common folklore stories that are passed down as like things to tell children, things that are a little scarier than they should be, and then condensing them and melding them together into one single property as like a super text of kind of spoken verbal traditions of storytelling.
It's not too different than like contemporary writers like Madeline Miller. It's a big trend right now who like take these myths and then spin them into long epic novels for a contemporary audience. So Circe, Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. It's kind of a thing that's happening a lot right now too. Or Into the Woods by Stephen Sondheim, right? Like taking all of these fairy tales. I'm serious, taking all these fairy tales and spinning them into one story.
Now I just want a musical adaptation of V.
It would be incredible, Drusilla. Incredible. That's a great idea.
Let's make some plans.
R.I.P. Stephen Sondheim, you would have loved the musical V by Joshua Conklin and Drusilla Adeline.
He would have.
It's hard. Speaking of that tension between Ukraine and Russia, though, when you look this movie up, it's hard to find out where it was made because it will just say Soviet, because the USSR was, of course, all of these different countries. And so it treated Ukraine, the internet now treats Ukraine as the same as Russia. But this is based on Ukrainian folklore. It was filmed in what is now Ukraine, and what was then Ukraine, I should say. And but the movie is in Russian, correct?
It is in Russian. And it was filmed on location in Kiev and in small towns in Ukraine. But then what is the most famous elements of the film were shot on the Mosfilm sound stages in Russia, which is where they filmed like Tarkovsky's Solaris and Stalker.
Yeah, and it's still there, right? Mos Studios is still active, right?
Yeah. And for a long time, they had most of their films available for free on YouTube by themselves. Which, like,
well, this is how people used to see V. It was on YouTube, and also some of this director's other movies, unfairly, I would say, used to be on Mystery Science Theater 3000, where they would be made fun of by robots, just because they were edited in a weird way for the United States, and the dubbing was quite bad. And so, even though they were pretty good movies, they would kind of, when they did enter our culture, it was sort of to be mocked, or to take slices of them and use in music videos and things like that. So. Well,
so
I guess
let's talk about the plot of V.
Yes.
Little that there is.
Yes. Okay. So there are 3 seminarians who are released for what seems like spring break from the seminary. I mean, these are priests in training. Yeah, exactly. These are priests, but when they get released by the head priest, whatever he's called, it does feel a little bit like an 80s sex movie, like Fraternity Vacation or something, because the priest is like, now don't do what you did last time. Don't steal so-and-so's goose, or don't get the priest drunk and make him recite bawdy poems or whatever. And these priests go hog wild when that bell rings, man. They are off and they are like snatching up women and stealing geese and getting drunk. And so it's from there that we start following 3 young seminarians. They get lost in a big field and it becomes nighttime and they're scared. And so they go and they find an old woman on a farm and they ask her if they can sleep on her farm. And she, for some reason, God knows what, is like, sure, but you have to sleep in 3 different places. And then, God, it's so hard to talk about this movie. And then our main character,
you're doing well.
Thank you. Our main character, who's one of the 3 priests, starts to be sexually harassed by the old woman, who seems to be very horny for him. And then, and lo and behold, the old woman gets on his back and begins to ride him through the night sky like a broom, and we discover that she is a witch. When they land, he's so frightened that he beats the woman with a stick, and then as she's about to die, she reveals herself as a beautiful young woman, and he's like, "Oh no, I made a mistake. She's beautiful." That's literally his line. No, she's beautiful. I made a mistake. She looks like Lana Del Rey. She has like long hair and flowers and a crown of flowers.
I mean, a beautiful woman can ride you like a stick whenever she wants.
Absolutely.
An old woman, never. No, beat her with a stick.
I'm not here to moralize, but that is ageism a bit. And the movie's never clear on which is the real her. I guess it's the younger woman, in which case it begs the question, like, why did she appear as an old woman to like fuck with these seminarians? I mean, I don't know. I would do that, I guess, if I was a witch. It would be fun. I guess is the real answer.
I mean, if you're a witch, what's your prime target to fuck with? Young priests,
seminarians.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Of course.
Like, go fuck with priests. It's fun.
Yeah, and our main character is a pretty bad seminarian. He is a big drinker. He's real H-word. You know, he's not gonna be a great priest. Which is why
he beats a woman to death with a stick.
Yes, true. True. But in his defense, she was old. So So anyway, he beats this woman to death, surprised that she's really beautiful. He gets back to the seminary where the head priest, whatever that person is called, I don't know, tells him, there's a young woman who's the daughter of a noble person. She has asked for you because she's on her deathbed and she wants you to say her final prayers, which he's shocked to hear. And he goes back to this noble person's house. And of course, it's the young woman that he beat to death. So he has to say her prayers every night for 3 nights in a locked church because no one wants him to run away. And every night he's visited by a series of horrors. And that's basically it. And it's very folkloric because, you know, you always get 3 in folklores, three bears, 3 little goats. You have to find these 3 items. It's like, it has that vibe about it. To me, it doesn't really, to a contemporary American sensibility, it doesn't play like a horror movie. In fact, to me, it felt like a kid's movie. It has like a very aesthetic look. It has matte painted backgrounds like Wizard of Oz. It's very innocent and childish and very charming. I don't mean any of this as pejorative. It made me think a bit of Hausu. It made me think a bit of Wizard of Oz. It's just very kooky and very visual and very artificial looking in a good way. And I'm sort of talking in circles now.
Deliberately built world that's very, very beautiful. And I think we should also note, for contemporary audiences, at least, one of the co-directors, Grigory Korpachev, I'm going to do my best at saying that, he co-directed this and only directed one other film, but he was primarily known as a production designer, which is why we have such beautiful visuals in this. And then he later went on to do the production design for such famously beautiful films like Kuleshov, My Car, and Hard to Be a God.
Oh, wow.
Which are legendarily gorgeous films. And so when you know that pedigree and then you go look at V, you're like, yeah, this is absolutely something this guy made in his 30s. Like,
yeah, but when you compare it to Western movies, right, like this feels older to my sensibilities than 1967, because at the same time in the US, you're getting like Rosemary's Baby and you're getting New Hollywood. And, you know, so it's just a very different feeling. And I don't know if that's because, you know, the Eastern Bloc is sort of behind the times because of communism, or if it's a deliberate choice just for this movie. I'm not sure where we pan out there.
I mean, this is around the same time that the USSR was making their version of War and Peace, which is also like an incredibly sweeping epic, really beautifully and deliberately designed. It's one of the most beautiful films that you can have the fortune of seeing. And to a contemporary American perspective, the closest parallel to that is like 40s, late 30s Hollywood.
That's how this feels. It feels like Wizard of Oz to me. It has that sensibility.
Yeah, and their version of War and Peace feels closer to like, I don't know, Gone with the Wind or something like that, where it's like epically long, epically huge costume sets. I guess like the closest thing that was happening outside of the Soviet Union from a visual and cinematographic perspective, what was going on in Italy in the 60s, where like in the 50s you had neorealism, and so in the 60s you had the kind of like rebuttal to that. So you had the big art filmmakers like Visconti making things like The Leopard, which are like overly built, overly gorgeous, again closer to like the Technicolor era of the old Hollywood studio system. But then from an independent horror perspective, you had Mario Bava making some of the earliest color horror films like Black Sabbath, which I think is like part and parcel with V. Like that would make a killer double feature. The entire, Slovakian folklore section in that with Boris Karloff as the Verdelak, the kind of Slavic take on the vampire, it looks exactly like V.
Yeah.
And it fits right into that world. And it's you know, it's a beautiful era of filmmaking. And whenever I watch those kind of like grimy, shoestring, independent American and British films from the 60s, I'm like, I miss that. I miss that. I miss that overly designed world. I love to escape into fantasy. And so doing a fairy tale this way is perfect.
Yes, and I should say fantasy is probably what allowed this movie to happen, because although this is maybe the only horror movie that the Soviet Union made, fantasy movies were giant in the Eastern Bloc. There were a lot of fantasy movies, and 1967 happened to be a time when the Soviet Union was opening up just a little bit, just a little bit. And I mean, culturally. And so it's interesting to watch this movie that couldn't have come earlier. And especially because a lot of Soviet films had some element of propaganda to them about, you know, the regime. And this one doesn't seem to have that as near as I mean, I was looking for like a communist propaganda machine in here and I didn't find one.
Well, there's an interesting level of propaganda to this film, not in what they depict, but I guess more so in what's not depicted. Because as you mentioned, the young seminarian is brought to the wealthy father of this deceased girl to pray after her. And the big kind of change to the story based from the novel to the film, it's a very, very faithful adaptation, except for one thing. The father in the book is a Cossack.
Yes.
Yes.
I have to admit, I don't know what Cossacks are, and they mentioned it a few times in the movie.
So Cossacks were it's interesting because it's both a like sociopolitical section of Slovakian culture and Eastern European culture, but then also like there's an element of like heritage and genealogy there too. So it's a little muddled. However, they did play a large role in the People's Revolution.
All I know about Cossacks are that we do Cossack squats at CrossFit, which is like, when you're like really low to the ground and going back and forth, the way that you think of Russians doing that dance, that's called like a Cossack squat. Sorry to be a himbo on our podcast.
I mean, I always think about Telly Savalas in Horror Express when he plays the villainous Cossack.
Oh, yes, right.
Which is, that's always the depiction of like the villainous Cossacks who came for Nicholas and Alexandra and all that kind of stuff. Right. And so the village that he's sent to in the book is a Cossack village. And they're always telling stories about like all of the war crimes they've committed and like all of these things. In the film, it's a wealthy landowner who is bribing him to stay there with the threat of violence and the offer of money if he stays. And it still has that kind of fairy tale folklore element of like, if you leave, you'll receive 1,000 lashes. If you stay, you will receive 1,000 rubles. And it's like, all right, everything in its balance. But they do kind of get that in by removing that element of the story and adding kind of a capitalistic evil to that father. Which is not there in the book. So it still has those elements of Soviet Union propaganda in there, but they're much more subtle. And honestly, like, good fix.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
It's really subtle. And I guess from an American capitalistic perspective, I didn't even notice it, but I suppose I would have if I were, living in the USSR upon release of this film. So let's talk about go ahead.
The denouement of the film, the reason
I was going to talk about the 3 nights.
The 3 nights, yes.
Yeah, so that's the main structure of the film. Each night gets progressively weirder. This young man is locked into a church, and then he draws a circle around him, which we all know in witchcraft is like protection. And it seems to work because each night he's relatively safe inside of his circle as progressively things get weirder and weirder and weirder. I don't know, Drusilla, if you've ever seen the 1980 musical The Apple. But I
haven't, actually.
You would love it. And there's a scene that takes place in hell in The Apple, and it looks exactly like this movie. It's just ape shit. So,
I was going to say there is a hell scene from the American Dr. Seuss film, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, that looks exactly like this.
Is that a Dr. Seuss film?
That's a Dr. Seuss film that he wrote and supervised the production design on. So it looks like real life Dr. Seuss. Anyway, there's a scene where they take an elevator down to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 3rd floor cosmetics, 5th floor hell, that kind of joke.
Yeah.
And then they get there, and hell is where they've banished all of the musicians that don't play piano. So it's all these people that are all painted blue teal, and this giant set that's all blue teal, and they're all playing these insane Dr. Seuss take on like a trombone and a guitar and a bassoon and drums, and like you have a man swinging on a vine to hit like a tiny cymbal. It's insane, but it looks like the end of V.
Yeah. Night 1 of V, it's really just the Lana Del Rey corpse popping out of her cabin or her coffin.
Del Rey corpse, aka Lana Del Rey.
Lana Del Rey flies around at him, I think. Is that right? What happens on night 1? It's just her flying around, right?
Yes. I mean, it's the very subtle build of things. She sits up in her coffin, and that enough is, to send all your vampire zombie,
and the way that she moves, the way that she opens her eyes and pops out of her coffin, it's all very Looney Tunes. Like you could hear like blink, blink, like you can hear like little cartoon sound effects. You know what I mean? Because it's sort of edited in such a way. It feels like stop motion.
I now really want to see a Looney Tunes take on this, where the Sumerian's Elmer Fudd and the dead girl is Bugs Bunny.
I can't believe they never do that. I mean, Looney Tunes was all about satirizing classic movies. Why didn't they get around to V? Yeah, so that's night 1. The sun comes up, the rooster crows, she goes back into her coffin. Night 2.
And he's safe once more.
He's safe again. Night 2, he gets drunk, right? He's drunk.
Night. So in the interim, he hangs out with all the men that live on the, small parcel of land,
etc.
And he's like, "Hey, I don't want to fucking be here. Like, this is all that shit that went down." And they're like, "You'll be fine. You're a man of faith. Here, get drunk with us." Yeah. And he's like, "Cool, yeah, bolster their spirits." And they have to like walk him in. Builds a circle around himself, and night 2 commences, and more of the same. And then we start to get a little bit of creature feature action.
Yeah, and in night 2, I remember she's like in her coffin, which she's riding around in like a spaceship, and the coffin is like bashing itself against the invisible perimeter of the circle in a fun way, almost like someone is like trying to bash down a door with a log.
The special effects in this movie are amazing.
Yeah, I loved when in the beginning when the man was being chased by the witch and there's the countryside moving fast in the background, but you can tell it's like on a Lazy Susan and just spinning around, and it looks really wonderful. It doesn't look real, but I think who cares? A lot of people think that special effects are for making something look real, and that's not necessarily true. It's for making something look beautiful or stylish
and heightening it really beyond reality and separating it from reality makes it more terrifying.
Yeah. So in night 3, same thing, except shit goes down. Hell's a poppin' on night 3. I mean, what don't you get? You get Lana Del Rey. You get little people dressed as demons. You get giant arms coming out of the walls. What else?
And I mean, it is really close to the end of The Sentinel, where they were just like, let's get some circus performers and some little people, dress them up as monsters, and like let them loose. And it really does feel like a musical number, because it's like these little trap doors and this whole church open. And it's like, hello, hello, hello.
I will put the scene that I'm talking about from The Apple in the show notes or something, because it really is that scene from The Apple, which is the titular song, The Apple, which takes place in hell. We also get the titular V, which I guess is the one monster who's like, literally this, open my eyelids. I want to see him. And he needs the other monsters to lift his eyelids up so that he can see our young seminarian, which seems to have some sort of danger attached to it, although I don't quite understand what. Like, this guy's like, please don't perceive me, I guess. And I don't know. Can you explain this moment to me?
Okay, so yeah, this whole movie builds up to the titular V showing up, which looks like, I don't know, a little old frog man made of stone.
Do you know what it looks like? It looks exactly. Do you remember the Nickelodeon cartoon Real Monsters?
Yes.
One of the real monsters is somebody who's holding their eyeballs up in their little arms, and they're like roly-poly, and it looks just like that real monster.
You're not wrong.
No, I'm not.
So V is introduced with this long kind of like choral by the Dead Witch, as V, Lord of the Vampires, V, Lord of the Undead, V, Lord of the Demons, and he shows up. So, and then has these heavy eyelids that have to be lifted by the other demons, which is ominous to the seminarian, and he knows that, he cannot look V in the eyes.
It's like Medusa, he can't look this monster in the eyes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on here that have been kind of pressure cooked by Gogol from Ukrainian folklore. First of all, Gogol claimed that V was like a toad demon, and that was like very common in Ukrainian folklore, and like everyone knows about V, and historians have since realized that no, that's not real. He made that up. He completely invented V as this figure and then kind of bullshitted it a bit in discussing his novel, which, like, true and fair and fine.
Right.
But V is presented as this, like, demonic vampire figure. And the eyelid thing is rooted in a different Ukrainian folk story about witches, in which a witch's husband, described as the old one, has these heavy, heavy eyelids that have to be opened with pitchforks, which is a fucking disgusting image.
Yeah.
Because he's been either cursed by the witch or in different variations is controlling his witch wife. I don't know. Cue Princess Bride scene here.
Right.
So what they do in V is that he's kind of this invented super demonic figure that is in charge of all of the other demons that we've been seeing throughout the past nights and that are all converging in this final night. And he has the power to command the demons of hell to break the sacred circle around the seminarium. That if he can see you, then he can direct the demons to you.
Gotcha.
So the seminarian finally becomes visible to V, and all the demons descend on him.
Yeah.
And then we cut. The cock crows. The next day arrives, and things are a little ambiguous.
Right.
The final scene of the film and the book, respectively, we return to our fun-loving, sex-having teenage priests going back to the seminary.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, hey, remember our friend? Remember what happened to him?
Whatever happened to him?
And they're like, yeah, I think he's dead. I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know. Don't fuck with witches. But also, at the end, during the kind of monster attack, she turns back into the old woman.
Yes.
So it does kind of beg the question of, is she the old woman masquerading as the daughter? Or is the daughter masquerading as the old woman? And again, with folklore and fairy tales, it's kind of one and the same.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that's kind of the point. Like, I don't know. I see the seminary student as the villain of the piece. I don't know about you. Also, knowing the Soviet Union's, take on religion, I wouldn't be surprised if that was also their take.
Yeah, right. They're all about the state and not the church. I did wonder when I was watching this movie, when you watch folklores from another country or movies that are really tapped into that, it's hard to know how much is only weird to you as an outsider and what would seem normal to that place's audience. So, for instance, when you watch a Miyazaki movie, right? Like when I watch Spirited Away, I'm like, how much of this that seems very strange to me would be intuitive to a Japanese audience? In the same way that we all deep in our bones have the story of Cinderella or Little Red Riding Hood. So if something is even slightly referencing one of those old fairy tales, we intuit that automatically without thinking of it. I wonder how much of that is at play with V. I wonder how much of this to a Ukrainian audience would tap into that sort of like preternatural folkloric place that we don't have.
Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly thinking that, especially with Japanese folk horror cinema, something like Kuroneko or Onibaba or something like that.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, it's cool and atmospheric, but like really over my head sometimes. So I don't know. I mean, my ex loved V. And was kind of like a warm blanket to them because though they didn't grow up in Ukraine, they did grow up steeped in Ukrainian culture and being a self-professed witch and having much interest in those things connected to their heritage. It did a lot for them. So I think that there's a lot more to that than, most American audiences being like, well, it's slow and then the monsters are fun at the end.
Yeah.
That's there, I guess. But as someone who has a religious fascination, I find it very fascinating from the way that the whole movie's beating up on a priest.
Yeah, and I find
really
it
depicting religion in a dark light, and I love that.
I find it hard to understand how anyone could call this slow. It's barely over an hour long. It's like an hour and 15 minutes long. I don't know. I just don't think that this is slow. Sometimes when people say something is slow, it makes me like judge them and not the movie, frankly. Even though I too find movies slow sometimes. But I like slow movies a lot of the time. And two, it's like that movie is not slow. That movie is an hour long. Like you are slow. You know what I mean?
And V is just like a feast for the senses, and like you know what you're getting into when you watch it because everyone has talked about the ending so much. But also you know that it's going to be the ending. You know that it's going to be a worthwhile ride getting there. And what I didn't know going in the first time I watched it was how consistent the world was.
Yeah.
How beautiful the whole world was getting to that moment. So as much as like there are the interim scenes between the nights where, you know, the seminarian is still in this village and he's getting drunk or he's talking with the father or something like that, there's still a level of unease and there's still a level of like beauty and supernatural quality to things that still work and carry you through the whole film. I don't know. I think it's a very beautiful artistic achievement, and I think it's a very like scary movie.
I don't find it scary, but I did find it charming. I liked it a lot. I liked the way that it looked. I liked the way that it moved. I really enjoyed it.
I think if you need to introduce a child to the world of the supernatural, this is a good film to do. If your child either speaks Russian or is chill with subtitles.
Yeah. Or I saw the one on Shudder is dubbed. So
there's a dub of V?
Yeah, that's the version
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, show your kids the dub of V, get them accustomed to dubbing so that they can watch giallo films younger.
Exactly, within 2 years. Well, then I guess it's time to play Have They Seen It? Like, now, hardly anyone has seen this, so it's a little bit hypothetical, I guess, because it's not really been available in the West until the past couple of years. So kind of no one would have seen this, but why not? Let's play like, would they like it or would they get it? Maybe. You know what I mean? What do we think about Kanye West?
Oh my God.
What do you think his reaction to this is?
Speaking of a movie where the sound is off and an Outkast CD is playing in the background. I think Kanye West would find V head-scratching, confusing, but he would absolutely adore the visuals. I think he would have a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah, he's a fashion person, and he has a really great aesthetic eye. Let's like separate his like possible mental illness out of this conversation. But just like he's a political ideology.
Yeah,
totally. He's a person who like designs and has an eye for fashion and aesthetics, and I think that he would really like this movie for that. Yeah. I don't think he would follow the plot. Maybe I think he'd look at his phone a lot, probably. But
yeah, I think if Julia Fox came to him and was like, "Let's watch V," he'd be like, "Okay, fine."
Julia Fox, Uncut Gems. That felt like a personal. That felt like a personal attack on me when everyone was making fun of the way she said "Uncut Gems." It's like SoCal slander, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
because I do talk like Snake from The Simpsons, and I know.
Which is so funny to me because you are so East Coast in my eye that it's.
I know, but I do talk like a Valley girl. I mean, I have the meanness of an East Coaster with the voice of a West Coaster.
Yeah, you're a beautiful combination of both.
Yeah.
So considering that this is a film about a priest battling the forces of darkness and evil, and has a very different take on religion than certain other novel and filmic fares. What do you think William Peter Blatty thinks of V? Do you think William Peter Blatty saw V? And what do you think he thinks of it?
I don't know who that is. I'm sorry.
The author of The Exorcist?
Oh, yes. No wonder.
The director of Exorcist 3 and
I thought his last name was Beatty in my head, like Beatty is what I see.
No, he's not related to Shirley MacLaine.
Oh my God, I don't know what I'm talking about. I feel like such a dum-dum now. Author of The Exorcist. I think that he would feel ambivalent to this. Is that an okay answer? I don't know if he would.
I mean, it's a cop-out, but I'll take it.
Well, what do you think he would feel?
I don't think he would like this movie one bit.
Why?
Blatty's amazing, great filmmaker, great writer. But that boy had some very specific beliefs on religion, and I think he like was a priest for a while, or like studied to be a priest. I think he would see this movie and not be too pleased with it personally. I don't know his opinions on the Soviet Union personally, but I know his opinions on the Catholic Church and the holiness of priests and fighting back the forces of evil. And for him depicting a priest as like, you know, an alcoholic who beats women to death and like potentially depicted as a rapist who is then like gleefully sought upon by like demons, vampires, and witches, to which the audience is kind of supposed to root for that.
Right.
I don't think he would like it a little bit.
Dovetailing off of that, I've recently learned that Paul Verhoeven is like one of the world's foremost experts on the story of Jesus Christ, and has like written books about Jesus Christ and stuff like that. What do you think Paul Verhoeven would make of this?
Oh my God. This movie would get Paul Verhoeven so hard. He would love this movie so much.
He would love it. Yeah.
Paul Verhoeven would be rock hard watching V.
What if we got a Paul Verhoeven remake or retelling of V? Like, how cool would that be? There'd be so many boobies, for starters. Probably Lana Del Rey would actually play that role.
Oh my God.
Which would be amazing.
I mean, if he followed up Benedetta with a remake of V, that would be so cool. I know, speaking of his, like, you know, passion and research into the life of Christ, apparently, he's been planning a Jesus biopic for some time now.
How soon is now? How soon can we have this Jesus
We were
biopic?
supposed to get it before Benedetta. It was so big of a project, he couldn't get the funding together, but he'd been sitting on Benedetta since the 80s, and was like, well, if you don't want to fund that, I have this other religious one. And his producers were like, oh, a lesbian non-film? Yeah, let's do that one instead. That's cheaper, and
Drusilla,
that's going to be great.
I would walk through hot coals to get this Paul Verhoeven Jesus biopic.
I think it's coming. Apparently, Benedetta did, enough. Yeah. And, like, Benedetta was at, like, AMCs across the United States for a while, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
Love that for us. He did that for us. It sounds like Verhoeven's going forward with his Christ film, which, thank you.
We're all blessed. Okay, well, I'm going to go in a different direction. Like, what about one of these, like, outspoken new atheists? Like, let's say Bill Maher. Let's say Bill Maher. What do you think Bill Maher would make of V? Why did you think that?
Because when you say new wave atheists, nothing comes to mind more than the director of Religulous.
Oh, true. Okay.
So, I don't know. I kind of feel like Bill Maher might look down his nose at V a little bit. I think he might think it was a little too goofy and hacky and cheap, and remind him of Cannibal Women of the Amazon Jungle or House 2 and all the other.
Of Death. Wasn't he in one of those movies? Cannibal Women in the Jungle of Avocado.
The Cannibal Women of the Avocado Jungle of Death.
Yes, I saw that on USA all night as a child.
Yeah, he was in that, and he was in House 2, the second story. I think it would remind him too much of 80s movies that he was in, which also, like, House 2 is, first of all, good, and second of all, has, like, really charming, delightful special effects that are, like, not too far from what V was doing.
I feel like he's somebody who's maybe not proud of those movies, and he should be. Like, that's a really cool thing to have done in your youth, is like be in some hacky B80s horror movies or sex films. Like, what a great thing to tout. You know what I mean? Like,
right? Like, that would be at the top of my resume.
Me too.
Trying to think of someone else who would really, really appreciate this movie and really, really love this movie. Okay. This is probably going to be like a foregone conclusion.
Okay.
But because we talked about him recently in a previous episode, and his admiration for beautifully constructed horror films, and specifically witch-related content, What do you think of Rob and Sherry? Do you think Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon have seen V, and what do you think they think of it?
I think Rob, I don't know if they've seen it, but in my imagination, if they had, I think Rob likes it. Sherry doesn't get it. And I'm being prejudicial again. I like sort of painting Sherry as like a bimbo or something. And I don't mean to do that. I don't know. That's my immediate gut reaction, is that he's into it. She's not. Or maybe she would be. It's got kind of like it does have like again, it feels like a music video. Like you would put this, you know, you could put on White Zombie and have this playing in the background at your Halloween party. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I feel like More Human Than Human was almost written for this.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm surprised that Zombie doesn't have a big V like guy in a suit to come out during concerts, like on the stage.
Yeah,
like he's got the robot from Phantom Creeps, but he doesn't have V. Come on, Rob.
I know. Open my eyelids.
Like, how has that not been sourced yet? Come on, source the English language dub. Put it in a track. Let's go, Rob. I'm sure he's seen this. This feels like it feels to me that like he was one of the first few people in like the 90s to get like a VHS bootleg of this, and it would be like, you know, getting really high in the Clinton administration and being like, you need to see this fucking weird movie.
You may be right about that. He's a pretty cool guy.
He's a pretty cool guy, and he has a huge VHS collection. So
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like he would have had a bootleg of V before we got DVD releases. I feel like he's ahead of the curve.
You're probably right. Well, I think that's it. Drusilla, what are we watching next week?
We're taking a trip a little bit further west to Venice, Italy. And much like some crazy big eyelids, it's probably recommended that we don't look now.
Bum, bum, bum. All right. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.